I begged God for a rich white husband. He sent a working black man with a soft voice to fix my sink. Is heaven
All
trolling
fixed
me
now, miss.
or rewriting my
Shh,
love
it's okay.
story? Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. And drop your city in the comments. Let's see where love finds us. The cheap apartment walls heard everything. Tonight they heard her. I am so tired of struggling. Savannah Holt choked out, pacing the narrow living room, bare feet slapping the scuffed hardwood. God, do you hear me? I don't want another project. I don't want potential. I want a rich white husband who can fix this. Her voice cracked on that last word. She dropped onto the sagging grey couch, the springs groaning under her thick, curvy weight. Savannah was all soft, unapologetic curves, full breasts straining against a worn tank top, a plush stomach, wide hips spilling over the edge of the cushion, thick thighs with little stretch marks she usually hid under shapewear. Tonight she was out of makeup, blonde hair in a messy knot, mascara smeared under her hazel eyes from crying. Sexy, people always told her. Men always wanted to touch. They never stayed to carry anything. The overdue bills on her coffee table didn't care how good she looked. She swiped angrily at her cheeks and grabbed the top envelope. Final notice. She didn't even open it. She knew the amount already, knew the way her chest would tighten, knew the taste of panic at the back of her throat. I am not built for this, she whispered. I'm built for spa days and brunch and not having to calculate if I can afford laundry and groceries in the same week. Her phone buzzed beside her. A notification, account balance, 4,380.27. Savannah laughed, a sharp, broken sound. God, I am not joking, she said, tilting her head back toward the cracked ceiling. Send me a man with money, a rich, stable, boring white husband who knows what a trust fund is. I'm serious. I've dated the broke artists, the dreamers, the guys with mixtapes and investment opportunities. I want a man who can pay the rent before it's due and still surprise me with a weekend trip. Is that so much to ask? Silence answered. She sat there a moment, chest heaving, then grabbed the spiral notebook on the table. It was supposed to be for budgeting. The first 3 pages were wild attempts at tracking expenses, then abandoned mid-month. She flipped to a clean page and scrawled across the top in dramatic loops. Husband requirements, God read this. She sniffed and started a list. 1 rich, 2 white, 3 no baby mamas, 4 house, not an apartment, 5 car that doesn't sound like it's dying, 6 loves me and spoils me, 7 not controlling but generous, 8 professional job, nothing with hustle in the description. Her pen slowed at that last one. She remembered Dion with the business ventures and the 3 secret credit cards. She remembered Ethan, the entrepreneur, who'd lived on her couch for 6 months and left her with 2 maxed-out store cards and a broken TV. She pressed the pen down so hard the tip tore the paper. I'm not asking you for some fairy tale prince, she muttered. Just someone who already has it together, someone who doesn't need me to build him from scratch. I'm tired of being the ladder. Her throat tightened again. She dropped the pen and grabbed a throw pillow, pressing it over her face as she sobbed into the fabric. Her body shook, her full chest hitching with every harsh inhale. She hated how desperate she sounded, even to herself. But the loneliness was heavy and loud. The fear of never getting out of this life was louder. Her phone rang. She flinched, swiping for it with clumsy fingers. Hello? Savannah Holt? A brisk woman's voice asked. This is Lisa from Crescent Apartments. We left you a voicemail about the maintenance request you submitted. Savannah sat up, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Oh, yeah. The sink. It's leaking again. We can send someone up in about 20 minutes if that works. Yeah, that's fine, Savannah said automatically, eyes drifting to the puddle under the cabinet door in the kitchen. Of course, the sink wanted to fall apart now. Why not? His name is Elijah, maintenance contractor. He'll knock when he arrives. Okay, she said. Thanks. She hung up and tossed the phone aside, suddenly aware of the state of her place. Bra hanging off a chair, take-out boxes on the counter, a pair of jeans draped over the TV stand. She groaned and stood, feeling the familiar pull in her lower back as she straightened up. Great, she muttered. Add embarrassing apartment to the list. She shuffled around, scooping up clothes, shoving trash into a bulging plastic bag, stacking plates in the sink that was already misbehaving. Her tank top rode up, exposing a soft strip of belly, and she yanked it down, annoyed. The movement made her notice again how swollen her eyes felt, how puffy her cheeks were. She caught a glimpse of herself in the dark TV screen. Thick, curvy, sexy, people always said. Tonight she just saw tired. "You better be fine as hell, Elijah," she grumbled to keep from crying again. "At least let there be some eye candy if I'm drowning in bills." A knock sounded at the door, 3 gentle taps. Not the impatient pounding she was used to from delivery drivers or neighbours. Savannah froze, then smoothed her hair down nervously, though the knot refused to behave. She tugged the tank top, adjusted the waistband of her shorts, and opened the door. The hallway's fluorescent light framed him, tall, broad shoulders outlined under a dark work jacket with the building's logo stitched over his heart, deep brown skin, clean-shaven jaw, soft, full lips. His eyes, dark and warm, met hers, and for a second the noise in her head went quiet. "Evening, ma'am," he said, and his voice was low, smooth, almost musical. "I'm Elijah. Here for the sink?" The softness of it startled her. She'd expected rough, rushed, not this. Not a voice that felt like a late-night radio host and a lullaby at the same time. She blinked. Yeah, the sink. It's, leaking. Again." He gave a small, easy smile that showed a dimple in his left cheek. "We don't like again. Let me see what's going on." She stepped aside, suddenly conscious of how much space she took up in the doorway, conscious of him, solid and calm, carrying a worn black toolbox in one hand. He walked in, moving carefully as if he didn't want to disturb anything. There was no judgment in the way his eyes flicked over the clutter, just quiet observation. He towed off his boots near the mat without her asking, then headed for the kitchen, setting the toolbox down with a soft thud. Savannah hovered in the doorway, arms folded, mostly to cover the way her chest was rising and falling too fast. He crouched by the sink, the fabric of his work pants pulling over strong thighs, jacket stretching across his back. He opened the cabinet and, sure enough, water had pooled, dripping steadily from a pipe joint. "There you are," he murmured, more to the pipe than to her. "Thought you could hide on us." Savannah swallowed. "Is it bad?" He glanced back at her, and again that soft voice wrapped around the edges of her panic. "It's fixable," he said. "You caught it before it got worse. That's good." No one had said that to her in a long time about anything. You caught it before it got worse. Her throat wobbled. She turned away under the pretense of grabbing a towel, blinking rapidly. She leaned against the counter, fighting the stupid urge to cry again. Over a pipe. Over a stranger's voice. Elijah worked in quiet efficiency, metal clinking softly, tools shifting in sure hands. The apartment filled with the comforting, ordinary sounds of someone competent doing what they knew how to do. "Did you just move in?" he asked after a few minutes, tone light, unintrusive. "No," she said, embarrassed. "Been here almost 2 years." He tightened something. "You in 3B before this? I remember a Savannah from the work orders." She huffed a small laugh. "Nah, 2C. The sink has been auditioning for a disaster movie since I got here." He chuckled, the sound low and warm. "Well, we're going to talk some sense into it tonight." She found herself smiling despite everything. "I appreciate that." Another few minutes passed. He wiped the pipe, checked for fresh drips, then sat back on his heels and turned the faucet on. Water rushed, then settled into a steady stream, no leak in sight. "There we go," he said. "Mind keeping an eye on this corner for the next day or two? If it even thinks about leaking again, I'll come back and swap this whole section out." "You will?" she asked, surprised by the promise in his tone. "Yeah." He started packing his tools back up. "I don't like half-fixing things. They always come back louder." Something about the way he said it landed somewhere deeper than the cabinet. She watched him stand, watched the easy way he wiped his hands on a rag and looked around the kitchen like he was making sure there were no other hidden emergencies. "Anything else giving you trouble?" he asked. "Door that sticks? Light that flickers? I'm here already." Savannah opened her mouth to say no. Then she thought of the bedroom window that never quite locked, the outlet that sparked if you looked at it wrong, the way the overhead light hummed at 3 a.m. like it was whispering her worries back to her. All of it, she wanted to say. "My whole life is flickering and leaking and stuck. Instead, she laughed thinly. "Just me," she said. "I'm what's giving me trouble." He looked at her a moment, really looked. Not at her curves like most men did, but at her face, puffy eyes, raw skin, the tight line of her mouth. "That's fixable too, you know," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "What?" He shrugged, that soft voice steady. "Whatever's weighing you down doesn't stay the same forever. Might not change how or when you want, but it's fixable." She almost snapped that he didn't know her life. Didn't know the numbers on her bank app or the list on the notebook. Didn't know she just asked God for a rich white husband like she was ordering takeout. Instead, she just stood there thick and tired in her small kitchen, staring at this working black man with the soft voice who talked about leaks and burdens the same way. He picked up his toolbox and headed toward the door. "If the sink acts up, call the office and ask for Elijah," he said. "They'll know who to send." Savannah nodded, fingers curling around the spiral notebook on the counter. The top of the page still screamed, "Husband requirements. God read this." Her eyes dropped to the first two lines. One rich, two white. Behind her, the newly fixed pipe stayed quiet. At the door, Elijah turned back and gave her one last gentle smile. "Have a good night, Miss Holt." His soft voice lingered long after the door clicked shut. Savannah didn't sleep much after the sink. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard that voice again. It wasn't what he said exactly. It was how he said it. Calm, steady. Like nothing in the world could convince him the pipe wasn't fixable. Like maybe he believed the same about people. By morning, she had convinced herself it was nothing. Just a nice maintenance guy with radio host vocals. Men had nice voices all the time. That didn't make them providers. She shuffled into the kitchen, hair wild, oversized T-shirt hanging off one shoulder, and cautiously opened the cabinet under the sink. Dry. She pressed her fingertip to the pipe, half hoping for a drip so she'd have a reason to call him back. Nothing. Just clean metal, firmly sealed. "Of course you did it right the first time," she muttered, closing the door. Her gaze landed on the notebook still on the counter. The words on the top of the page hit her like a hangover. "Husband requirements. God read this." She winced and took a gulp of watery coffee, then sat down and pulled the notebook closer. Her hazel eyes moved down the list she'd made in her meltdown. 1, rich. 2, white. 3, no baby mamas. 4, house, not an apartment. Car that doesn't sound like it's dying. 6, loves me and spoils me. 7, not controlling, but generous. 8, professional job, nothing with hustle in the description. It looked childish in the cold daylight, like a letter to Santa written by a woman with overdue rent. She tapped the pen against the margin, then added another line almost without thinking. 9, actually sees me, not just my body. Her chest tightened. She quickly added 10, emotionally safe. There. That made it sound less shallow, at least. Her phone buzzed. A notification from a dating app she hadn't opened in weeks. Elite match. 12 new men meet your preferences. Savannah stared at it, then at her list. Rich. White. Professional. Slowly she opened the app. Polished profiles scrolled past. Men in suits, men on boats, men holding craft cocktails and tiny dogs. Founder. Executive. Senior something of something. She swiped until one profile stopped her. Ryan Carter, 36, finance. Photos, crisp navy suit, ski trip, rooftop bar, a dog with its own bandana. Bio, work hard, then enjoy the life you built. Looking for a woman who can dress up, keep up, and laugh at herself, and with me. He was attractive in that magazine way. Clean, sharp lines. Confidence in every shot. Savannah looked down at her thick thighs, bare and marked with faded stretch lines, soft where the world wanted angles. She thought of her laundry pile, her account balance. Dress up, keep up, she murmured. Maybe. She matched. Within minutes he messaged. Nice to meet you, Savannah. You look stunning in that green dress. She flushed. That picture was from over a year ago, before things got heavy. Thanks, she typed back, trying not to overthink. They traded light banter. He liked Italian food and rooftop views. She liked pretending she still had a life that included those things. When he suggested drinks at a high-end lounge downtown on Friday, her stomach flipped. A rich white man in a suit wanted to see her. This was literally the thing she'd cried for. Okay, she wrote, thumbs trembling. Friday works. The week blurred. She worked, dragged herself home, and kept running into Elijah in the building like the universe was playing some long, slow joke. Tuesday, she passed him in the stairwell, carrying a toolbox and a coil of wire. He held the door without looking at her body first. "Evening, Miss Holt," he said, voice a low, warm hum. "Hey," she managed. Up close, she noticed things she'd missed before. The faint smudge of paint near his collar, the little scar near his eyebrow, the way his hands were big and sure, but careful when he brushed past her so he wouldn't bump her. Thursday, she came home with a grocery bag threatening to split and found him kneeling by Mrs. Alvarez's door on 2B, adjusting her walker. He helped the older woman test it, listening patiently as she talked about her knees and these useless elevators. "You're a good boy," Mrs. Alvarez said, patting his arm. "I'm just doing my job, ma'am," he said with that small, shy smile. Savannah didn't linger. She walked past, suddenly hyper-aware of the cheap wine in her bag, the way her shorts hugged her hips. She caught a brief glimpse of his profile as he laughed softly at something the older woman said, and her chest did something small and traitorous. She reminded herself that good men could still be broke. Good didn't pay off debts. Gentle voices didn't clear overdrafts. Friday came anyway. Savannah stood in front of her mirror, heart hammering. She'd poured herself into a deep burgundy wrap dress that hugged every curve, full breasts, narrowest part of her waist, wide hips. The neckline was a dangerous plunge. She pinned it just enough to be suggestive, not desperate. She smoothed her hands over her stomach, tugging at the fabric. The dress clung, but it was the best she owned. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. She'd done a smoky eye, sharp liner, and matching wine-coloured lipstick. The effect was stunning, sexy, thick and radiant. "Rich wife material," she whispered to her reflection. "Please, God." She grabbed her small clutch, slid on heels that always punished her later, and stepped into the hallway. She barely got 3 feet before almost colliding with Elijah. He was just locking the custodial closet, jacket off, dark T-shirt clinging to his chest and shoulders. He smelled faintly of clean soap and a hint of sawdust. His eyes widened briefly as he took her in. Then he looked up and met her gaze instead of letting them linger on her cleavage. "Wow," he said quietly. The word was simple, but his voice wrapped it in something warm. "You look really nice tonight." Heat crawled into her cheeks. "Thanks," she said, trying not to fidget. "Just, going out." "Good," he said, that little dimple showing again. "You deserve a good night." The way he said it, like it was just a fact, made her throat tight. She forced a smile. "Well, here's hoping." He stepped aside, giving her more room than her body actually needed. "Have fun, Miss Holt. Get home safe, okay?" "I will," she said, and walked away, the click of her heels echoing down the hallway louder than her heartbeat. The lounge was everything her life wasn't. Dim, amber lighting, velvet chairs, soft jazz, men in watches that cost more than her rent. Ryan fit right in. Up close, he was even more handsome. Tall, neatly styled brown hair, a tailored suit that probably never saw the inside of a laundromat. He kissed her cheek lightly when she arrived, eyes travelling approvingly over her dress. "You look incredible," he said. "I love a woman who knows how to present herself." "Thanks," she said, swallowing nerves and the feeling of being under a spotlight. They ordered drinks. His tasted like smoke and money. Hers tasted like sugar and trying. At first, it was easy. He was funny, in a rehearsed kind of way, and had story after story about business trips, investments, the market. She laughed at the right spots, listened as he talked about his goals. "You must hate living on that side of town," he said at one point, swirling his drink. She blinked. "What side?" He waved a hand vaguely. "You know, those old buildings, crowded. I drove past once. Saw like 3 guys working on 1 broken light and 10 just standing around. No offense, but people over there don't exactly scream work ethic." An image of Elijah adjusting Mrs. Alvarez's walker flashed through her mind. His soft, "We don't like half-fixing things." Savannah shifted in her seat. "I mean, people are just trying to get by." He smiled thin. "Sure, but some of us are trying harder than others, right?" He moved on before she could respond, launching into a story about an employee he'd had to cut loose for being late when the trains are free if you wake up early enough. He joked about certain neighborhoods making him lock his car doors at red lights. The more he talked, the smaller she felt. At some point his hand landed on her knee, not gentle, not asking, just claiming. "Anyway," he said, leaning in, breath warm with expensive whiskey, I like a woman who appreciates a man who's built something. You strike me as someone who knows her value." Her stomach twisted. Did she? Right now, she felt like a pretty decoration he could set down whenever he got bored. "You see yourself as a wife?" he asked with a smirk. "Or more of a partner-in-fun type?" Savannah thought about her notebook. Husband. Requirements. God. She thought about the bills on her table. She thought about Elijah's voice telling her leaks were fixable. She started. He cut in. "Because I'll be honest, I'm not really in the market for marriage right now, but you and I could have an amazing time. Trips, nice dinners, no pressure. You'd never have to worry about money, at least not when you're with me." The way he emphasized that last part made something inside her crumple. Not when you're with me. As in, when he was done, she'd go right back to counting coins. She swallowed. Her eyes burned. "I think I misunderstood what you were looking for," she said softly. He frowned. "Come on, don't be like that. It's just honesty. I thought you'd appreciate that." She forced a smile that felt like it might crack. "I do. I should go." He leaned back, irritation flashing in his eyes. "Seriously, we haven't even—" She stood on shaky legs. "Thank you for the drink, Ryan. Have a good night." She walked away before he could say anything else, heels loud, dress clinging, heart pounding in her ears. Outside, the night hit her like a wall. Cool air, distant traffic, the hiss of the city. Her banking app refused her the small mercy of a quiet exit. When she tried to request a ride, a red banner flashed across the screen. Payment declined. "Of course," she whispered, laughter bubbling up hysterically. "Of course." Buses were scarce at this hour. Her friend didn't pick up. Her feet already ached. Mascara threatened to streak. Savannah started walking. The sidewalk glittered with broken glass and old rain. Streetlights painted everything in tired yellow. Each step in those punishing heels felt like a reminder. This world was built for people like Ryan, not girls from her building with cracked ceilings and fixed sinks. Headlights slowed beside her. Her body tensed. She clutched her clutch tighter, ready to snap something sharp and defensive. "Savannah?" His voice slid through the cracked night, low and familiar. She turned. Elijah leaned out the open window of an aging sedan, paint faded but clean. He wore a dark hoodie now, jacket off, forearms resting easily on the steering wheel. Soft R&B hummed from the speakers, the wipers sweeping back and forth in a lazy rhythm even though the drizzle had stopped. "What are you doing out here?" he asked, brows lowering with concern. "It's late." She swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how her dress had slipped a little, how her lipstick had worn at the edges. "Just heading home," she said. "My ride fell through." He glanced at the empty street, then back at her. "You want a lift? You want a lift? I'm heading that way." Pride reared up. She didn't want him to see her like this, heels in hand, rich man fantasy already crumbling, but her feet throbbed and her bank account had already answered for her. "Yeah," she whispered, "if you don't mind." "Hop in," he said, unlocking the door. Inside, the car smelled faintly of clean upholstery and something warm and spicy. There was a fast food bag folded neatly on the floor, a small stack of work gloves on the back seat. He pulled away from the curb, driving smooth and careful. He didn't ask right away. Just let the music fill the silence, his presence steady beside her. "Bad night?" he finally asked, voice soft enough that she could pretend he hadn't, if she wanted. Savannah stared at her hands in her lap. Her nails were chipped at the edges of her carefully done polish. "I thought I was getting what I asked for," she said raggedly. "Rich, white, successful." He checked the list. "And?" Elijah's gaze flicked to her, then back to the road. "And he treated everyone like they were beneath him," she said. Like people were furniture, including me." Her voice wobbled. She blinked fast. Elijah reached into the console and silently handed her a crumpled but clean napkin. She took it, pressing it to the corner of her eyes. "Sounds like you were interviewing a bank account," he murmured, "not a husband." The words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they were too close to something she didn't want to admit. She bristled. "You don't know what it's like to be scared all the time about money," she said, sharper than she intended. "To be tired, to not have a safety net, to feel like one bad month could wipe you out." He didn't flinch. "I do, actually," he said calmly. "I just learned there's more than one kind of rich." She looked at him then, really looked. At the faint circles under his eyes, the calluses on his fingers, the quiet way he moved through the world. They pulled into the cracked parking lot of the apartment building. He shifted into park but didn't turn the engine off yet. The wipers squeaked once across the dry windshield and stopped. He drummed his fingers lightly on the steering wheel. "You know," he said quietly, "the walls in that place are thin." Her heart stalled. "What?" "Your apartment," he said, eyes still on the windshield. "The other night, I was on the floor below, fixing a breaker. I heard you." Blood rushed to her face so fast she felt dizzy. Her mind raced back, her pacing, her sobbing, her voice lifted to the ceiling like the building itself was God. "I want a rich white husband. Husband requirements. God, read this." "How much did you hear?" she whispered. He finally turned to look at her, expression unreadable in the dim light of the dashboard. He finally turned to look at her, expression unreadable in the dim light of the dashboard. "Enough," Elijah said quietly, "to know you weren't just talking about a man. You were begging not to drown." Savannah's stomach dropped. Heat flooded her cheeks. She wanted to fling the door open and run upstairs, disappear into the thin walls that had betrayed her. "So you heard me asking God for a rich white husband," she said, bitterness curling around the words like smoke. "Congratulations. That's not embarrassing at all." He didn't flinch, didn't smirk. His eyes stayed steady on hers. "I heard a woman sobbing like her chest was tearing in half," he said. "I heard somebody say she was tired of being the ladder everybody climbed and then kicked away. I heard fear. The rich white husband part was just the shape you gave it." Her throat closed around a response. "That doesn't make it okay," she whispered. "It still sounds awful." "Yeah," he agreed softly. "It does, but awful doesn't come out of nowhere. It usually grows on something that was true once." She stared at him, stunned that he wasn't attacking her with it. "You're not mad?" she asked. "I basically told God I wanted the opposite of you." A faint, sad smile moved across his mouth. "I caught that," he said. "Trust me, my pride heard it." His gaze held hers, gentle but unblinking. "But my heart heard how scared you were louder than anything else." Her eyes burned. "You shouldn't have had to listen to that." "I was at work," he said with a little shrug. "Thin walls, remember? Sometimes I hear people fighting over nonsense. Sometimes I hear a kid practicing drums. That night I heard someone praying so hard her voice shook the pipes." His voice dropped. "I'm not the type to pretend I didn't." Silence swelled between them, filled with things she'd never planned to confess to anyone, least of all the building's maintenance man. "I grew up watching my mom choose men like the guy I went out with tonight," she blurted. "They had nice cars and nice suits and treated her like she was something to wear. But they paid bills, and when they left, we sank again. I told myself if I ever got a man with money, I'd just hold on and swallow whatever I had to." She laughed once, harsh. "So yeah, I made a list. I thought if I was going to trade my peace, at least let it be with someone who can afford my rent." Elijah's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. "And when you grow up broke and white," she went on, "every movie, every show, every dream life they sell you looks the same. Clean neighborhoods, big houses, men in golf shirts." She glanced at him, shame burning. "Men who don't look like you." He nodded slowly. "I know how that script goes," he said. "I also know it lies." Her voice shook. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't just insult you. I insulted every man who looks like you. Every man working a regular job who isn't wearing a suit on a rooftop bar. I hear it coming out of my own mouth and I want to crawl out of my skin." He watched her for a long moment, then leaned back, staring at the windshield. "Can I say something real?" he asked. She let out a watery laugh. "At this point, why stop?" "I don't need you to pretend you weren't taught those things," he said. "This world is loud about who's safe and who's not, who's provider material and who's scenery. You didn't invent that." He turned back to her. "But you also don't have to keep believing it once you see how ugly it is." Her chest tightened painfully. "You don't think I'm irredeemable?" "No," he said, and there wasn't even a flicker of doubt. "I think you're standing at the place where you get to choose who you want to be from here." Her vision blurred. "And who's that supposed to be?" she whispered. He studied her face, smudged mascara, trembling mouth, thick, curvy body squeezed into a dress meant for a night she thought would save her. His gaze didn't slide over her like a scan. It settled. "Somebody who knows she's worth more than what's in a man's wallet," he said. Somebody who doesn't have to sell her soul for a ride in a nice car. Somebody who can still want safety without making herself smaller to get it. Tears spilled over. She scrubbed at them with the back of her hand, then froze as his fingers lifted slightly, halfway between them. "Can I?" he asked quietly. She nodded before she thought it through. His thumb brushed gently under one eye, careful not to press too hard, not to smear more than he had to. It wasn't a caress. It was practical and reverent at the same time. "Breathe," he murmured. "In through your nose, out through your mouth, slow." She followed because his voice made it easy. In, out, in, out. The jagged edge of panic softened. "I'm not rich, Savannah," he said after a moment, hand dropping back to the steering wheel. "I don't own property. I fix sinks and patch walls and hustle side jobs so my mom doesn't have to worry about groceries. I know what it is to stare at a bill and feel it staring back." She swallowed. "Then why don't you sound as desperate as me?" His lips twitched. "You didn't hear me when I was 21, he said. "I begged God for a woman who'd never seen a shut-off notice. Thought that would erase my shame." His eyes grew distant. "I went on dates with women who looked perfect on paper and felt like glass in my hands. Couldn't lean on them, couldn't tell them the truth, because I was terrified they'd see the boy who grew up showering at his auntie's house when the water got cut." He shook his head. "Turns out money doesn't fix that story. Being honest does." She sat with that, the car suddenly feeling like a confessional. "I think I went out with a bank account tonight," she whispered. "And God sent me home with a mirror instead." He huffed a soft laugh. "I didn't mean to be that," he said. "I thought I was just the guy fixing the leak downstairs." "You're more than that," she said before she could stop herself. The words hung between them, bare and electric. A car door slammed somewhere in the lot. Someone shouted a greeting. The world kept spinning, uncaring. Elijah cleared his throat. "Look," he said, voice a little rougher, "I'm not going to lie and say love pays bills. It doesn't. But I've seen what chasing security at any cost does to people. It hollows them out until they'll take any hand that reaches back, even if it pushes them under." Her mind flashed to Ryan's fingers squeezing her knee, his voice saying, "You'd never have to worry about money when you're with me." She shivered. "Can I give you some unsolicited advice?" Elijah asked. "You've already heard me ugly cry to God," she said. "At this point, I owe you at least that much." He smiled. "Go upstairs tonight," he said. "Wash your face. Take off that dress that man doesn't deserve to see you in. And tomorrow, when your head's clearer, make another list. Not for God to answer like a delivery app. For you. Who do you want to be? What kind of life are you willing to build even if nobody rescues you?" Emotion punched her in the sternum. "That sounds hard," she whispered. "It is," he said. "But it's honest. And you won't have to be afraid somebody can take it all away just by walking out." His words sank deeper than any compliment ever had. She reached for the door handle, then stopped, looking back at him. "Elijah?" "Yeah? Why are you being this kind to me?" she asked. "I literally prayed for your opposite." His expression softened in a way that made her stomach flip. "Because I know what it's like to be so scared you say things you don't really mean," he said. "And because I saw you carrying groceries up 3 flights last week instead of leaving them in your mama's hands. I saw you give Mrs. Alvarez your umbrella when it was storming and walk home soaked." A tiny smile. "You're not what you said in those walls. I'd rather treat you like who you are than who fear made you sound like." Her eyes stung again. She swallowed it down, nodded and opened the door. Cool night air hit her skin. She stepped out, heels wobbling slightly on the cracked pavement. Elijah was there instantly, one big hand hovering near her elbow. Not grabbing, just ready. She straightened, clutch clutched to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered, "for the ride, for not making me feel like trash." "You're welcome," he said. "Get some sleep, Savannah." She turned toward the building, then pivoted back. "Hey, Elijah?" "Yeah?" Her voice trembled. "If God wasn't trolling me that night, and he really did send you, I hope I don't blow it because I was too busy staring at my own stupid list." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, something tender, something like hope quickly reined in. He didn't step closer, didn't make it bigger than it needed to be. "Then don't," he said simply. "Start a new one." She nodded, heart pounding, and pushed into the stairwell before she could say anything else. Upstairs, under the same cracked ceiling that had heard her bargain with heaven, Savannah peeled herself out of the dress and stood in front of the bathroom mirror in just her bra and panties. Thick thighs, soft stomach, stretch marks like faint lightning, puffy eyes, messy mascara. "I want more for you than this," she whispered to her reflection, "but I won't sell you for it." She washed her face until the last of Ryan's evening went down the drain. Then she went to the kitchen, flipped open the notebook, and stared at the list that had started this all. Husband requirements. God read this, one by one, with slow, deliberate strokes. She drew a line through each bullet point. Rich, white, house, car, spoils me. She left 2 words untouched, loves me. On the next page she wrote, hands shaking, who I want to be. She filled it in, not with numbers in a bank app, but with words that sounded like freedom. Kind, brave, honest about my fear, learning money instead of letting it own me. Someone who chooses a man's voice when I'm breaking over the sound of his engine. When she was done, she set the pen down and pressed her palm over the page, like sealing a prayer. In the quiet, she heard a pipe somewhere in the building creak and settle, metal adjusting to new pressure, finding a truer fit. Downstairs, in a small apartment with tools lined carefully by the door, Elijah lay awake, staring at his own ceiling, replaying her last words. If God really did send you, I hope I don't blow it. He exhaled slowly, soft voice barely above a whisper in the dark. Maybe, he murmured, he's giving both of us another chance to want better. Neither of them knew exactly what that would look like. But for the first time, instead of begging heaven for someone rich enough to save her, Savannah fell asleep, wondering what it might feel like to build something real, with the working black man whose voice had already started to calm storms money never could.